Hello, welcome to week 11, Intro to Digital Design. I hope you guys had a fantastic spring break last week. It was really nice. It took a couple days for it to kind of like sink in and for work to taper off, but I definitely noticed the break and was very grateful for it. It was so nice to not have to juggle so much, but we are back in it, and boy, are we in it. So this particular week's live session is actually, the length of it will kind of be determined by you guys. I have some stuff to share, but this week you have the opportunity also to share your work in progress for your movie posters, for feedback from myself, from Bryson, from your classmates that are in this Zoom session. So if you are interested in doing that, you put your name in the chat. And then when we get to that segment of the session, you will have the opportunity to share your screen and get kind of live feedback of wherever you are in the progress in your creative process of the movie poster project. So that said, I will share what I have to share. And like I said, the length of this Zoom depends on whether or not you guys take advantage of this opportunity or not. So I'm going to get started with my creative inspiration for this week. It is sort of focused on, it is pretty focused on movie poster stuff. But what I wanted to start with, maybe what I'll do is bring it over to my other screen so that we can look at it more easily. I'm going to start with a little bit of background about the artist whose movies posters I want to share with you today. So let me share my screen. Can you guys all see this PDF with Paul Rand is what it says right now, but I'm going to back it up to talk a little bit about Saul Bass. Can you guys see this? Okay, so Saul Bass, I don't know if you guys have heard the name before. He is make a note really quick, make sure I can. He is an American graphic designer who had specialized during his lifetime on not only corporate logos that you will probably recognize, and there's a sampling of them here, but also for being kind of the founding father of what we now know as motion picture title sequences, before where they used to just be still boring, not necessarily boring, but just still names, or possibly like some photo work behind them, but just very, very basic title sequences. He introduced the concept of moving title sequences and kind of the motion in title sequences that we now see before movies. So that was like kind of one of his big claims to fame. And then also his film posters, which I have a really cool little YouTube short to share with you, along with, I'll show you some of the other videos if you're interested, that you can kind of watch on your own. But here is a few of the movie posters that he is most known for. He did a lot of work with Hitchcock. It definitely, there's like the 60s vibe to the to his design style. There was often like an off-kilter kind of look to it, and then very, very clean, basic lines, simple use of color. These are all things that are easily accomplished in Illustrator, even with the limited skills that you have at this point, kind of in your learning of Illustrator, which is why I like to highlight him for this class. So here are some quotes that I noted of his that I love. I want to make things beautiful, even if nobody cares. These are quotes that I think are really inspirational as a graphic designer. Design is thinking made visual. This is huge. Like, this is basically, like, in a nutshell, how my brain works. So I thought that was a really good one. Symbolize and summarize. It's constantly what we're doing, creating visuals that are symbolic of the information that we are conveying, and they summarize it, to the simplest effect. Where do ideas come from? From looking at one thing and seeing another, from fooling around, from playing with possibilities, from speculating, from changing, pushing, pulling, transforming. And if you're lucky, you come up with something worth saving, using, and building on. That's where the game stops and the work begins. So that is the creative process that you guys are working through in this class, in your kind of creative endeavors, and in the movie poster project. So if you didn't already know him, I just wanted to make the introduction to you to know about Saul Bass. If you just put Saul Bass movie posters into YouTube, a bunch of really cool shorts come up. I particularly like this first one, but it's a little bit longer and I didn't want to take up too much of our time today. So I thought I would just make these known to you. And then I wanted to show you this one, which is like a nice quick trip through some of them. So I don't know if you guys can tell just by looking, or can kind of envision in your head how easily it would be to accomplish something like this, even with just knowing how to adopt colors in Illustrator, how to use the pen tool. Very, very simple, and some basics of typography. Just keeping in mind what we learned last week with the papyrus video and kind of what not to do. You can see how these are just really very clean, simple designs that capture the heart and the theme of the film. So I wanted to share that with you. I also have, on a more modern kind of take, is my kind of collection and folder. Did I show you guys yet my Wes Anderson like movie poster collection? Did we do this last week or 2 weeks ago? Maybe not. Okay, so Wes Anderson, I'm sure you guys have heard of him, has a pretty deep filmography currently, and one of the things that he's most noted for is the graphic design of his films, the strong color palette, the props and the sets that are highly stylized, and things that are made by a graphic designer just for the movies. For instance, the men with baking boxes. So this kind of collection of posters that I have is a combination of original marketing material for the films and then also fan art that was created later. I am a big fan of the color palettes, of the stylized, of being able to take the theme of the movie and carry it over into the print materials of the movie. I love seeing stuff like that. I love stuff that's kind of tied up very prettily by the end, and just seeing all of the designs. I have a really cool set of Criterion Collection who produces they did DVDs and Blu-rays for a long time of films after the fact, and did custom packaging. And I have a set of Wes Anderson films that have really cool like fold outs, each for the different movies, maps, and like little mock-up magazines and different things. So you can see here like a very another kind of, Saul Bass had a very distinctive style, and these all have a distinctive style as well. And I'm looking super forward to seeing what you guys come up with your movie posters, and I'm just continuing trying to show you kind of just how you can conceptualize and create a design that is whole and that kind of stands on its own, but also can be tied to a greater, work of art, in this case, a film or a movie. Wes Anderson has a new film coming out that I feel like has taken this stylized look even a little bit further and a little bit like more distinctive. And I thought we'd watch the trailer for Asteroid City if you haven't already seen it. This one is coming out soon, and I finally found a movie that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing. So here is this.
You're not here.
We're not there. The car exploded. Come get the girls. I have to stay here with Woodrow.
I'm not the chauffeur. I'm the grandfather. Where are you?
Asteroid City, Farm Route 6, mile 75.
Junior stargazers and space cadets. Each year we celebrate Asteroid Day, commemorating September 23rd, 3007 BC, when the arid plains meteorite made Earth impact.
Holy Toledo, that's Mitch Campbell.
You were very good in the one about the tramp in the brothel who gets amnesia and becomes a pediatrician. You were very awesome.
Actually, maybe my favorite character ever.
I don't know why nobody else liked it.
Oh.
What do those pulses indicate?
What? Oh, the beeps and blips? We don't know.
Some of our information about outer space may no longer be completely accurate. Anyway, there's still only 9 planets in the solar system as far as we know, Billy?
Except now there's an alien.
What's happening now?
I don't know. I don't like the way that guy looked at us. The alien.
How did he look?
Like we're doomed.
Maybe we are.
I've just informed the president.
How long can they keep us in Asteroid City legally?
The world will never be the same.
That's an alien doing jumping jacks. That's an alien in a top hat.
What's out there? The meaning of life. Maybe there is one.
Are you married?
I'm a widower. But don't tell my kids.
You're saying her mother died 3 weeks ago?
Let's say she's in heaven. Which doesn't exist for me, of course, but you're Episcopalian.
In my loneliness, I learned to give complete and unquestioning faith to the people I love. I don't know if that includes you, but it included my daughter and your 4 children.
Sometimes I think I feel more at home outside the Earth's atmosphere.
Oh, wow. Me too. They're strange, aren't they? They're children. Compared to normal people.
Yes, that's correct.
It's true.
Freight train, going so fast. Freight train, going so fast. I
do a nude scene. You want to see it?
Huh? Did I say yes?
You didn't say anything.
I meant yes. My mouth didn't speak.
You're muted.
Thank you. I just was requesting really quickly that you guys put in the chat any elements or principles of design that you see in this movie trailer. Elements and principles that would be carried over, probably most likely, into the film itself, and then possibly into, future fan art. I can get us started off. Very kind of obviously is typography. He has chosen, or in the trailer itself, you can see the use of typography, and the color palette being kind of like having that vintage film put over the whole thing, so everything's like faded and muted and looks like it was created and kind of sun bleached, like a postcard or a painting that is from the 50s or 60s. Also, it looks like it's set in a part of the country that's kind of desert and arid, and so it's got that whole kind of color palette going with it. You can see just in this clip here all of the different opportunities for type solutions and things that were created there. Another thing that you will see is a lot of balance in the shots, and there's a tendency towards, you can see it again here, the balance, that and there's the contrast of, you've got balance in the shots and in the sets, while the story might be like quirked off and off kilter and kind of different. So boy, you guys, nobody holding Bryson had anything to put towards it. So the reason I bring this up, and the reason why this is important, is because you guys are in the middle of having your peer review assignment, which is due on Monday, where you should be giving feedback to your peers, to 2 peers assigned to you, on their work in progress movie posters. And these are the kind of things that and languages that I want you to use and to practice using, identifying the elements and principles of design as your there's that, and then there's also the case study that you will be assigned for your movie poster. So same as you did one for the change the context advertisement, you're going to want to be able to talk about the design decisions that you made, your creative process, maybe what elements and principles you put to work in your movie poster. Another thing that I was thinking would be cool to point out at this kind of point in your in the assignment and in the project, is this is a good time to photograph or screen grab or save, export JPEGs and save kind of part of your process, so that you can include the different points of your creative process in your case study when you get to it, and have a whole story of the process of creating your finished movie poster when it comes to putting together that case study. So that takes us kind of seamlessly into the next thing that I want to that I have on my list for today, and that is just kind of going over the movie poster project. Like I said, your peer reviews have been assigned. They're due Monday. So you have until Monday to get back into that last submission page. Click on peer review on the right-hand side, and it should take you to where you've been assigned 2 of your classmates. You just click on their name, and then you are able to give them constructive feedback, identify what possible elements and principles of design are at work, and give them some constructive feedback. And then with that feedback, after Monday, you guys will use that. You will use any notes that I've given you on the assignment page to create your final movie poster. So I don't see any names in the chat for wanting to share. This would be the time to do so if you were going to. Otherwise, I'm going to just demo a couple of things in Illustrator that are helpful towards kind of accomplishing some stuff you might want to for your poster. Did anyone want to share? Going once, going twice. All right. What I want to do then is show you 2 quick vector videos on YouTube that both show kind of great ways, and I will put this in the announcement later so you guys can link back to them, because they're really short and they move kind of quickly, but they show how taking your sketches and then placing them in Illustrator to trace them are a good way to, with limited Illustrator skills, just learning the pen tool, just learning to work with the shapes, how you can accomplish or give yourself kind of a guide to see, oh no, I forgot to hit the thing, a guide to follow by tracing or kind of working over a sketch that you've created by hand. So this is something that is done on a regular basis. You will create a sketch, whether it's a logo or an illustration, and then get a photo of it into Illustrator so that you have something to trace and something to kind of shoot from. So I'm going to show you just the intro, first few minutes of the pizza sketch video, and then I have another one that has a portrait in case any of you have a kind of human element to your poster. So let me make it a little bit bigger and then take a look at this.
Hi everyone, this is Dom Designs here, back with a new Adobe Illustrator tutorial video. In today's video, I will show you how to take a sketch I made of a slice of pizza and turn it into a beautiful and vibrant vector illustration in Adobe Illustrator. If you're new to the channel and you're interested in Adobe Illustrator drawing tutorials and process videos, then please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell icon so you never miss an upload.
I'm skipping his drawing a little bit to where he
Then
gets
place the image.
into Illustrator.
I then took a picture with my phone and transferred it to my computer. Then place the image using the placement option, which is Command-Shift-P on your keyboard, on an empty 1920 by 1080p canvas in Adobe Illustrator. Our next step is to turn this image into a template. By double-clicking on the Layers panel icon, it will open up a box where you will be given the option to turn on the template mode. This automatically dims down our image by 50% and it also locks it down. I'll then create a new layer and name it Artwork. This is where the outline of our pizza will be. Using a dark red color as our outline, at a 10 points thickness, we will draw our outline of the pizza. Let's trace out our image using the pen tool, P on your keyboard. Don't be afraid to go back and restart or fix your curves along the way. Using this method, you will notice we have a lot of overlapping lines. We will take care of those in a little bit. What I'd like to do next is to taper in some lines using one of my favorite tools, the Width tool. The Width tool can be found on your panel to the left, or you can just use Shift-W on your keyboard. By clicking and dragging, you can see that I can make the end of the stroke thinner or thicker. So I'll go ahead and do all the lines I think would need tapering. Now that we're done with that, let's clean up and get rid of all the lines we don't need. By using the shape builder, we can also select strokes. So holding down the option key on your keyboard, we will be able to delete the strokes we don't want. Also, let's remove the round cap on some of these strokes as well.
I could just watch.
So let's do this exact process for the crust of our pizza.
It's so cool. And it's just like the simplest tools. It's just working with lines right now. And you can already see like how cool it looks.
What is he using to trim the overlapping lines?
He's using the shape builder tool.
Oh, okay. I thought so.
Yeah, shape builder tool, the line width tool, and the pen tool, and that is it. And he's getting like such a cool result. So that's the one thing. I'm going to stop that one there, and you guys are free. Like I said, I'll put the link in the announcement, and you guys can watch the rest of it if you want to. But this is like exactly what you could be doing with your, taking your poster from the sketch, from your thumbnails into your work in progress, and then finalizing it. So this is the other one that I was going to show you. Watch the whole thing because it's not quite 2 minutes long. It moves pretty quickly. So again, I'll put the link in the announcement later so you guys can watch it later, because it's a pretty good look at how you can make a, kind of abstract, minimal portrait that does resemble, the original and I can't remember if he uses a photo. I think it's a photo that he references. But take a look. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool and like so simple. I know they make it look really simple, but just slow it down. And these are the kind of things that you can do in Illustrator. It's super important not to get like too carried away and to use too many lines and too many shapes and try to get too detailed. Because the effects that you can create, you know, similar back to the Saul Bass reference, the simpler the better is often more effective when working with Illustrator. So the last thing on my list, and before I share it with you guys, I just want to remind you, homework for this week, you have a brushes lecture and set of tutorials to kind of work through, and then you will have a brush exercise and a quiz on brushes. That is the theme in Illustrator this week. And then you also have a critique to do, which is just a little written assignment. The focus would be on packaging. So wanted to point those out to you. And then what I'm going to do next is show you a couple of things in Illustrator that I think will be useful for you as you're working on your poster. I've just created a blank kind of workspace so I can show you how to, one of the options for working with type, which is type on a path, which is pretty cool. And then I want to show you what your options are for adding shadows to your very simple vector drawings. Those are two questions that I get asked on a regular basis, and two kind of techniques that students are looking to create. So type on a path is just exactly what it sounds like. If I hover over the tool, it gives you a little, Illustrator gives you a little video to kind of describe what that means. It's usually, because if you were going, it's, you know, you're usually not working with a square, because if you were working with a square, you would just make it in a straight line. So most often you are working with or talking about a curved line that you might be wanting to have your type running on, or a circle. And so the main difference between a curved line and a circle, you'll see in a minute, but obviously one is a line and it is not a closed path, while the circle is a closed path, which means that your type could potentially be going like around in circles. Let me just make this a little better, because, and I've got my, you can see my smart guides coming on and it's giving me a little bit of help here. I'll make this a little better. All you do is you take like, and this may be that you've got, you know, your illustration in an area, or you may have you know, a block of text that you're working around in your poster and have the need for this. So basically you've got your path selected, or your shape, if it's a shape you're working with. And when you grab your type on a path tool and hover it over the path, you can see that the path, and in this case, I can change, mine is a blue. I have it set on blue right now, so it's kind of hard to see. Let's see if I make it red, if it makes it easier. Okay, so can you see when I hover over it, it turns red, which means it's ready to accept the type that I put on there. So if I click, it gives me placeholder text set in the default type that is selected at the default size that is selected. So if I just start typing, I get whatever I type in the default font at the default size, but I can then obviously, you know, change it to anything that I want. So I'm going to pick this one for fun, and I'm going to make it much bigger so we can see it a little better. Now, when you work with type on a path, it still follows a lot of the same rules that any other type would. Right now it's align left. You can align it center. You can align it right. You can add you know, letter spacing, you can change the color of it. Anything that you can do to normal type, you can do to your type on a path. One of the things that I just wanted to show you guys quickly, once you get your type on a path, if you can see these lines that kind of frame the text, you've got one on the left, one on the right, and one in the middle. That is where it's basically your text frame. and you can click, and if you hold and drag, you can open it up so that it goes on your complete path, you know, so it's limited to just a certain amount of your path. This gets important when you're working with a circle, and what'll happen sometimes is it'll look like this. You'll be like, where's the rest of my text? I now had more to the title than that. And if it has a little plus mark, that means that there is hidden text that's gone beyond the frame. So you have to, you know, click and drag to open it up. The clicking and the dragging is what for some reason takes a bit of practice and finesse. You have to get like right on top of it, wait for that little arrow at the bottom right to show up on my tool to be able to grab it. And it, for some reason, these are one of the things that takes some practice, because you can click 50 different times and just keep missing and get frustrated really easily. So I wanted to point that out to you. I'm going to center it. I'm going to open this up so it goes the whole length of my curve, and then I'm going to center it so that I can like make my type as big as possible. Another thing I want to point out that you guys may notice, we've talked some about kerning in this class, and the importance of noticing when you've got weird spacing going on with your letters. And you can see between the T and the Y, because of this curve, a big giant space is opened up. And then between the T and the H, they're being smooshed together because of the curve. These are things that as graphic designers, as you know, students of a visual art, I'm going to expect you to pay attention to and see. If you were to turn this in on your movie poster, you would lose some points, or I would draw attention to the fact that some kerning needed to happen for your final poster. This is a really easy fix by just working with the letter spacing in the character panel, and you can just hold it down and let it just kind of draw your letters together or apart. Or you can use Option and your arrow key on the keyboard to also do that. And so it's something that's just, it's a fine tuning. It is a, like I said, thing that is an expectation from a design student to notice and to work on, so that you can make your letters, and that P or that T and the H are going to be a problem. As you can see, even when the tops are moved together, the bottom is still weird. You can do, there are more things, like this is a, there's a rotate option on the character panel, and you can try like rotating it and squishing it together. And then maybe dropping, this is the baseline tool, dropping the baseline down just to get it to look where it looks better. But again, this is going to be kind of up to you guys. This is finesse. This is, these are really like fine-tuned design kind of things that are super important and make a huge difference to what your, you know, what your initial just default type kind of looks like. So that's one thing important when you're working with putting type on a path, for instance, on a circle. Sometimes some strange stuff happens. So let me just show you on a circle. Let me just show you this. So again, you can see this is my beginning and my end of the type frame. And it is kind of like maybe upside down from where I want it. There is this midpoint that you can also grab. And if you click and hold on that, you can change where the type lands on the circle. So this would be moving it so that it's going across the top of the circle. You can actually move it so it goes inside on the inside path of the circle, which is bonkers, but that may be something that you're interested in doing. Again, like the way you move it around is with these lines that show up when you have the type selected. And by the way, for all of that, I'm using the direct select tool, the white arrow tool. So Corinne, how would I fix the T? You mean here on the path? How did I fix this T? On the curvy path? The two T's look different. Yeah, you know why? I think it's because So this particular font, let's look and see. If you use your glyph panel at all, it will show you alternatives of the font. I don't know why it has, I don't know if one's upper and one's lowercase, because this font looks like it's a primarily like upper lowercase situation. Let me see if I select this one and do capital T. Yeah, so this is a capital T, and then oops, that is a lowercase t, and that's just this font. So that's what you're seeing in that. So anyway, so type on a path it can be very tricky. It can be really frustrating to work with, but it's primarily because you've got to like master these little frame edges. And I'm working with the direct select tool, and I'm clicking on the text or I'm clicking on the path. You could change the shape of the path also with the direct select tool. If you see it, I click on the circle and the type is not selected, it doesn't have the little anchors and the arrow, that means that I can actually like alter the shape of the path. But again, it's all about like the finesse of like getting in there and selecting the right thing. And it can be very like tedious and very frustrating. So I don't want you guys to get discouraged by this, because it's a really fun effect once you master it. So that's the one thing I wanted to show you. This glyphs panel is super handy though, Corinne, especially if the font that you're working with, you can't figure out why. There are certain letters that when they're placed next to each other, they become like a different figure, like a F with a diphthong, I have to open up this glyphs panel kind of on a regular basis and see what the heck is going on, because it depends on who created the font and what part of the world the font was created in, and all of these different things, kind of what you're getting. But glyphs is a really cool way to see what characters are available for the font that you're working with, because sometimes there's no lowercase, sometimes there's no numbers, sometimes there's no punctuation, and you have to like use a matching font or a similar font if there's a character that you're looking for that's not there. So I'm going to add an artboard on the artboard panel, and then I'm just going to hit the plus to get a second artboard so I can show you guys the options or kind of some of the techniques that you can use for creating shadows. I'm going to just create a big old square so that we have a shape that we all recognize and that it is not too odd, and I'm going to just fill it with yellow. So depending on what your background ends up looking like or how much text you have, you may find sometimes that the text is a little hard to read, and maybe like a drop shadow would be helpful. There's a couple different things that I recommend for that. One would just be straight drop shadow. Under effect and go down to stylize, Illustrator actually has what is in effect a raster pixelated drop shadow effect that is available. Now, a couple things to say about that. It's not vector. I told you your poster should be, 95% vector. That's okay. If you want to use a drop shadow from, that's built in from Illustrator and is a raster, pixel based drop shadow, that is fine. You're not going to get marked down from that. The other thing is, it is not as easily sized up or down. It adds quite a bit to the file size of the art that you're working with. It will make, depending on how many things you apply a drop shadow to, it is going to slow down your processor. And sometimes you will be waiting for a while for the effect to be applied wherever you have applied it on your piece of artwork. If we were working with an 11:17 poster that has drop shadows placed on 50 different things, when you move your screen around, you are going to have to wait while those you know, while that effect is applied to 50 different things by your computer's processor. So it can add, you know, significant lag time to what you're working on. So I just want you to be aware of that. So when you choose it from effect, stylized, drop shadow, you get a window that pops up that allows you to make some decisions about what your shadow looks like. You can choose the color of the shadow. If we were working with that Wes Anderson palette and everything's just sun bleached, you wouldn't necessarily use a black shadow. You might use a shadow that's like a rusty brown color. So that's something to think about. Multiply is usually a pretty good bet for the mode of the shadow, because that just means that anything the shadow is going on top of is going to be darkened, not to black, but to a multiplication of that color. So if we had I'll put another shape below this in a minute so I could show you guys. You can, you know, change the opacity, you can change the offset of your shadow, you can change how blurry the shadow is, or how like not blurry it is. No blur, a little bit of blur. What I recommend if you're not going to use blur at all though, is to actually just create a second shape, which I'm going to do in a minute. So let's say we want, you know, something like that, just making it look like this square is floating up off of our screen. And what I was going to show you, if I draw another, push this behind it, you can see that the color of the shadow changes depending on the color that is kind of overlapping. So it becomes like a weird yellow if it's over yellow, and it just makes it look like, you know, these items exist, rather than if it was just set to black, you would just get the color black all the way around. It's a different color. So that's working with shadow. I've put a shadow on this square, and say I decide I don't want it on there anymore. You actually have to go into the appearance panel. So make note of that so that you can see the things that are applied to that object. The object that you have selected has no stroke, has a yellow fill. The opacity of both are set to the default, which is 100%. And you can see that we put a shadow on it. If you want to get rid of the shadow effect, you go to your appearance panel and then you just delete it from there to get rid of it. So that's something that's super helpful to use. What I was going to say about, I'm going to use this, possibly wanting to just do a shadow with no blur. Let's say we just want to make this have a black version behind it, or, you know, maybe you want a yellow version or a white version. This can be done with any shape or with a block of text. If you just copy it, Command C, and then you can paste in back, which I use all the time, which is Command B, and it's going to paste a copy of this right behind the original. Everything is exactly the same. You can't even see it because, you know, it's the same. So don't click or deselect. Make sure that you still have it selected, and I'm going to change it to black, and then I'm just going to use my arrow tool to nudge it, and then that gives me a shadow effect that's a little bit different and that isn't going to take the time to load. So if you were going to use the shadow tool with no you know, from the effects menu with no blur, it's not really worth it because the processor still has to create that shadow. In this way, you've just created another, you know, another set of shapes, another line of text that gives you that same kind of effect. So these are things, like I said, I get these questions every semester of how to do these two things. So I wanted to make sure and share them with you guys today. But that's all I got for you, unless anyone has any questions for me. That is, you know, my tips and tricks about Illustrator for the day. And I can't wait to see what you guys create and how those posters shape up this week. So have a great week. Welcome back. We just have a few more weeks to go. So killing it.